You have an incredible purpose to make a difference in this world. A purpose must be discovered and character must be developed because great leaders aren't born, they're built. So get ready, gamers. It's time to level up. This is the Level Up Podcast. Comparison will kill your calling. That's why in today's episode, we're talking about the fact that not only should your calling look different than others, but actually that's exactly how God intended it. Why? Because your calling is customized. Welcome, friends. My name is Pastor Souzy, and I want to welcome you to the good old Level Up Podcast. Content geared to helping gamers level up in their life, faith, and leadership. And we're back for another episode. So whether you're here for the first time or coming back week after week, we want to welcome you. We're about to dive into a great conversation. And we've got the legend himself, one of our very own pastors, the good old Pastor Nfluence coming on screen. The absolute Chad himself, man. And Pastor Nfluence, I'm so excited to have this conversation. So thank you to those that are joining us live or via podcast, audio on YouTube, all the things. But I want to have this conversation, especially with you, because I think we live in a world where so many people, they compare themselves to others. We compare our body image, our intellect, we compare our finances, our video game skill. Like we just compare. I'm guilty of it. Many of us are guilty of it. And it really is just a killer of joy. It really, this isn't really the purpose of the podcast, but if you can learn to not compare and be content with who God made you to be, you will be so much happier, have so much more joy. But today we want to focus today's convo more so around the specific and unique calling that God has for your life, because that is one specific area that we will compare to others. But the truth is we want to understand the same uniqueness, intentionality that God put into creating you, the way you look, your hair, your personality, the same intentionality put into making you unique. Your calling is also unique. And there is going to be a pressure that whatever you feel God's calling you to do in whatever season of life you're in, you're going to feel tempted to compare it to others. I know that I have. I'm sure Pastor Nfluence has. I'm sure every single one of you has. Even for me as a pastor, I'm called to be a pastor, but does my pastoral leadership look exactly the same as every other pastor? And the answer is no. In today's episode, we're going to talk a lot about my journey, Pastor Nfluence's journey. But I really want to go in this conversation because I want all of you to walk away with the fact that it's not only just acceptable for your calling to be unique and look different. It's been customized for you in this season, in 2025, in the unique context you're in. God customized your calling for you, and that's not only acceptable, that's how it should be, because God's calling you to accomplish a purpose that requires a custom calling that looks different than other people. So today you're going to hear about some of our pastoral callings. You're going to hear about some of people's life's callings. But what I want you to do is I want you to walk away and ask yourself, God, how can I come to a place where I am not only accepting, but thankful that God, you gave me a calling that doesn't look like anyone else's, and to use that for God's glory. Pastor Nfluence, I want to have this convo with you because right now you're in the middle of a shift. It's been a little bit of a change, especially when people think about the calling of a pastor. They think, hey, the guy that just whether he's volunteering or working at a church, at a local church for what I'll call quote unquote normal people. And then you do that job and then you come home and spend time with your family. And that is more of a quote unquote normal type of calling for most people's, calling as a pastor. Yeah. And for a season of your life, which I'll let you go into, you did that. You did the more normal calling. I also did the more normal calling. Suit and tie on Sunday, working at a church in Connecticut. My wife and I were both there, and now our lives, they look unique. Yeah, they look different. And so, talk us through a little bit of the uniqueness of the journey you're in, and how I believe God's given you a custom call. Well, God's given us all a custom calling, but I think yours is just a very evident that when people think the life of a pastor. Yours looks very different now, even compared to your old, just in the past year. So walk us through what that's journey been like. I want to talk through some of the struggles. Did you struggle with, kind of the fear of, comparing yourself to others? But first and foremost, walk us through what has that journey been like for you, going from the normal pastor to what you do now, and fill people in, they might not even be aware of your story.
That's good. So for those of you that don't know, for the past, until recently, for the past 3 or 4 years, I was actually privileged to be the young adult pastor at a normal church. I got to hang out with young adults, 18 to 30 years old, get to do life with them, do ministry with them,
Yeah.
love on them. And I did all the normal things that that just a normal pastor would do.
Sure.
Like go visit them, have coffee with them, conversations. And then I would come home after a day of work, and I would just go spend time with my family. My church work and my life at home were just very like, you work this time, you go home this time.
Yeah, yeah.
You work this time, you go home this time. And it was incredible. I loved that time in ministry. I actually had a young adult reach out to me this past week and said,
Cool.
2 years ago today was when we officially first met.
Oh, let's go,
so
dude.
that was just really warm into my
Impact,
heart.
man.
Yeah, dude, it was awesome. But my life in this past year, if you guys didn't know, I am currently the community pastor here at XP Church, and I just came up on my year, and this
Yeah.
past year
Like the other
has
day.
been literally,
Yeah. Thursday, right? I think it was last
literally,
Thursday. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Last Thursday, and literally, I'm telling you, this year has been a whirlwind when it comes to a unique calling,
Yeah,
because
man.
pastoring in a digital space is just completely different.
It's different.
Like,
It's different.
it's just completely different. Because you balance having online friendships and even like as a parent, like I wonder, how is my son who's a little over a year old now, how does he interact with this online church community?
Absolutely.
Where is his community found? Because a lot of my friendships and relationships with community is online. Like, how
Yeah.
do I work in the in-person relationships with friends and community? Because like, I believe that it is important to have, you can have all online friends, and that's amazing, but if you also want in-person friends, you got to put some extra effort in to get some in-person relationships
Absolutely.
when your job is
Absolutely.
online. Ministering to people, not only as a pastor of an online church, but as a content creator myself on a mission to create a positive place in Mop Classic, and love gamers right where they're at, and share the gospel with them. All of that is just an absolute like 360. I don't know what I walked into. It's been an amazing experience, though. It's been incredible, and the impact I've gotten to see has been absolutely wild. But yeah, it's unique, and at times, I'll tell you, guys, at times, and you'll feel this too with just the uniqueness of your calling, is at times it will feel lonely.
Yeah.
Like, it
Yeah.
will
It's so
it will
true, man.
just
My
feel,
goodness.
like so different. Like, there are times when I'm literally sitting in front of my computer, and I'm like, man, am I the only one in the world doing this? Because
Mm.
even in an online ministry space with a church and a team, our callings are different.
Yep.
What we do on the daily is different. And so it's been good. It's been super impactful, but man, it's had its challenges too. And I hope this encourages you that the uniqueness of your calling doesn't, like, it. God's gifted you with something great,
Yeah.
and it's an absolute blessing. But know the challenges, and know what you're saying yes to before you walk into the calling that God has for you. Know what you're
Absolutely.
saying yes to.
Yeah. So for those, to give a little more context, for those who don't know, Pastor Influence, our community pastor, part-time role. All of our pastors on staff are part-time role, which means they would be what's called a bivocational pastor, which means that they, part of their hours a week doing ministry, being a pastor. The other is figure out another way to make money, right?
Yeah.
Whatever.
No,
That
absolutely.
is very, very common in just the ministry world. A lot of pastors are bivocational. I am also bivocational by design. I designed my life that way, but well, God called me to do that, and I've had the privilege to
Again,
customize a lot
that
of my
unique
life,
calling. Yep.
unique calling. But I want to talk through that with you, because also being a content creator myself, our lives are beginning to look similar in certain ways.
For sure.
I understand the struggle of the juggle. Like,
Yes.
I get it.
Yes. No,
And
that's
so,
real.
you're coming out of years of not only being a pastor in a quote unquote normal calling, but being surrounded by watching a bunch of other people who had more normal
Yep.
callings. Not that
Yep.
one's wrong or different, but it's just, I'm accustomed
Yep.
to seeing a certain thing,
Yeah.
right? Accustomed to seeing a certain
No, for
thing.
sure. Absolutely.
Now you're transitioning into a very different way
Yep.
of life. You're transitioning into a role where it's like I'm a part-time pastor, but
Yep.
then when I'm not pastoring, sometimes I'm editing videos.
Yep.
Sometimes I'm
Yep.
I'm answering DMs from people who
Yep.
don't go to my church.
Yep.
I am working on content ideas, things that are very different than really the things that pastors are trained to do.
For
Very
sure.
different than what
Absolutely.
people would call like
Normal.
ministry, normal
Yep. Yep.
ministry, right?
Yep.
And so you've really night and day, big
Oh
shift for
yeah.
you.
Oh, absolutely. No, seriously.
And in that there is the struggle to come to terms with like, am I doing this right? Because is
Yeah.
it wrong for me to spend certain time,
Yep.
instead of pastoring people, I'm editing a video or I'm coming up with this idea. I think most people can understand from like a job financial perspective, like you're compensated to do what
Yeah.
you're compensated to
For
do,
sure.
and then the other half you got to do other things, right? I think everyone from
For
a
sure.
job perspective would understand, but the calling of a pastor is so much
It's
more than a
different.
job,
Yep.
so
Yep. Come
much
on.
more
Come on.
than a job. I won't go down the rabbit trail if it's the only job that people expect you to work, but no extra pay, right? Like no
Yep.
one,
Yep.
no one normally is like, yeah, I just normally do 50, 20 hours of overtime every week for free, right?
Yeah.
Except they
Yep.
expect pastors to do that, but that's a whole other
Yep.
conversation. But like,
Yep.
have you struggled at all as you're learning really this new rhythm? Have you
Yeah.
struggled with the comparison of like, but I remember
Oh,
when
for
I used to
sure.
be able to just focus on ministry, and I'm looking at all my pastor friends in my local town, also the church, like they just focus on like pastoring,
Yeah.
and like, have you struggled at
Yeah.
all with just comparison?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've struggled a lot with it. Being um, a a pastor online, even having conversations with other pastors, there's just this often this kind of disconnect that happens where they really don't understand like how ministry is being done, and you really have to walk them through that
Yeah.
conversation. And there have been times where as I'm walking through that conversation with other pastors, um, I'm like, like, am I really doing like, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? Like, is it
Mm,
really supposed to be this difficult for me? Because here's the truth. I got to tell you guys, like, being a pastor online, like being bivocational streaming and pastoring online, it's not something that your average everyday person does. And
yeah.
so
It's unique.
it's unique. It's unique. And because of that, there's a lot of this, like people don't quite understand
Sure.
um what's going on.
Absolutely.
And that in and of itself has been a little bit of a struggle. Another struggle that I deal with just in the online pastoral, and I talked a little bit about it earlier, was just like my son. Like my son, I care a ton about him. I think he's the best in the world. But I often think about in this role, how is he connecting with the community? How is he walking out his journey of life growing up? Where are the relationships for him in this? Because as we do life um, with our church body, because that's what the church is. The church is, I would call it like one of the third places where we do life together with people in the community.
Absolutely.
How do I get my son involved in that sense of community? Um, and just like, how do I balance community for him and community for us, and both being a pastor and being a dad. All of this is unique being online. Describing describing real community and friendship online to people who don't understand that you can have real friendship and community online
Yeah.
is tough. I had a conversation with a friend of mine a couple years ago, actually, uh, and he just could not grasp the idea of, for example, me and Pastor Souzy being friends and being online. Like, just struggled with it. He just did not get it. He
Yeah.
couldn't understand, like, if you couldn't physically touch them, how can you be friends with them? How do you really
Absolutely.
know them? You know, and those are some struggles that are real and unique with my call in ministry. But I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Absolutely. Yeah, and even that just conversation, not to derail the conversation too much, but even just you
Yeah,
thinking about how your custom life fits within this custom calling. It's
absolutely.
been really great, even just starting some conversations around like, hey, as an online church, XP Church, like what does it look like for us to customize our church in a way
Yep.
that can minister to more of the whole family, being,
Yep.
for example, children. Obviously, right now
Yeah,
your son is one, but
for
like
sure.
he's
So
eventually going to get a little bit older, and
absolutely.
what does friendship online look for him? Like how are we loving the whole family? So it's really been starting some really great conversations,
Yep.
because you
It's been good.
represent millions of people that have young children asking that same question. And so
Yep.
how do we figure out a way to customize even just a way to minister
Absolutely.
in that? So that's been a really great conversation. But
Yep.
for me, like what I can really relate to, like about your story and like the shift you're in, because like the shift you're experiencing is a shift I experienced like a couple years ago
For sure.
when I started back in like 2016, where I stepped out of like being a normal pastor at a local church, suit and tie on a Sunday morning,
Yep.
and typical what people would think when they think about typical ministry,
Yep.
to then stepping into really being a streamer. It's before I even really started the church.
For sure.
So I was actually stepping, this was almost a big stretch for me. I'm stepping out of
Yeah.
being a pastor to then
No,
being
for
a
sure.
streamer. And then
Yep.
now, struggling with the, like, here was a real struggle for me. Pastor Influence was like, if I go through with this calling, like, have I abandoned the life of a
Mm,
pastor? Am I
mm,
abandoning the ministry
true.
by becoming a streamer? Even though I was going to be sharing the gospel,
Yeah.
and but
No, for
because
sure.
there was a
For sure.
gap,
That's a real question.
yeah,
That's a real
there
question.
was a gap between me leaving that church and starting back then what was God Squad Church. There was a
Yep.
gap. I wasn't even at like, so I was like, am I like, am I abandoning ministry? Is God, is this really God's will? Is he disappointed in me? And the basis of that for me was because my ministry looked different than other people's.
Yep. Yep.
I was comparing, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
No, that's real.
and I struggle with it. I remember talking with one of my buddies, JC. I was like, yeah, man, but like, and he's like, bro, you're gonna be preaching the gospel to people. You're gonna be ministering to people. I know, but I'm not gonna be attached to like a church
Yeah.
ministry, and I'm not gonna have a like pastor, and like, and I just remember having to wrestle with the fact that like my calling is customized,
Yep. Yep.
is unique for me,
Yep.
and really the only basis that I had for it being good or bad was, is it different or is it the same?
Yep.
And I remember God just helping me like have to come to terms with the fact that like God's too creative for everyone to do the same thing.
Come on.
He's
Come
just
on.
too creative. He's too good. He's too big for our callings to be limited. And
Yep.
and honestly, that has been over the years a continuous struggle for me, man, because even now, like the role now, obviously out of that only content creator phase back into, we started our church and I was lead pastor of
Right.
our church, and in that at the very, very beginning, right, a question conversations we would always have, and sometimes we still have them to this day, when we come up with ideas or strategies or whatever we're doing, what do? We compare it to like a physical local church. We're like, what would they do? It
Yeah.
doesn't always apply.
Yep.
It's different. Like we just gotta
Yep.
customize it. So even when I stepped in the role of lead pastor and started our church, like I was so obsessed with like, how do I make my life look like the role of a normal lead pastor?
Yep.
And if
Yep.
if mine is different, then I must be doing it. I must be doing it wrong. And sometimes honestly, like I still struggle with that, man.
Oh, for
Because
sure. No, yeah.
like even for us, right? Like, so a unique thing that both of us share that you're stepping into now is like a part of our ministry is live streaming.
Yep.
It is
Yep.
not very common for a pastor to spend 4 to 6 hours on any given day
No.
live on a live stream talking to his people, especially if there's a video game being played at the same time.
For sure.
Like,
No, for sure.
really, like you might be the only
Yep.
pastor who's like, you know, playing mob classic while being
Yeah,
like being a chicken, being a boomkin,
that's real.
casting abilities and sharing the gospel with people.
Yep.
And I remember for years, and I would like to walk through if you've kind of been dealing with some of the struggle, because this is what I dealt with,
Yeah.
feeling like, you know, because between like leading the church, which means like you're working on high level vision, working on where, like as a leader, you can't just be focused on what's going on today. You have to be focused on what needs to be focused on like tomorrow. Like you got to be thinking a year ahead. Where are we? Not only where are, but where are we going? Then you're working on your sermons. Then you're doing your best to meet with as many people one-on-one as you can to disciple and teach and encourage and care. And then you got to lead your staff and you're working, you know, then you're going to prepare for board. Like there's just so many
Yeah.
things to work on.
Yep.
And then outside of that, you're only bivocational. So then the rest of your time you're spent, like for me, streaming. So I make a majority of my personal income for my family. And I just remember so often dealing with the like, man, but if I wasn't streaming, I could do a better job pastoring people, the one-on-one meetings,
Yeah.
having more time to work on the sermon, teaching, you know, oh, man, we could do a midweek Bible study if I didn't stream so much.
Yeah.
I remember just beating myself up, feeling like, man, I feel like I'm failing as a pastor because I am also streaming. And I just remember the Lord taking me on a journey of understanding like your definition of pastoring people doesn't have to look like other people's definition of pastoring people. Because here's the reality, right? I know this conversation is kind of just general about calling, but even just the role of a pastor, like if you guys study in scripture, like the role of a pastor, the Bible's pretty clear on the qualifications of what a pastor should be like. It's not very clear on what a pastor should do. So it talks about like teaching, caring for the people, loving the people. Like, okay, what does that actually like? What does it look like? So like it says a lot about it and it's pretty clear about what we should be like and the qualifications and the integrity and stuff, but it's not very clear in exactly what we should do. Go love the people.
Right.
Okay. What does that even mean? Take care of the flock. Okay. What does that even mean? Like, and I think a part of that is because even God understands the role of every pastor. It's custom to your context, to your own gifts, to the context in which you're in, to the people that you're around. Like it's custom. And what really got it to really work in my heart is like the fact that you are alive 4 to 6 hours a day gives you an opportunity that a lot of other pastors don't have. Where in real time, and this happens to me all the time, in real time, someone that's given their life to follow Jesus can be sitting there reading the Bible and be like, I don't know what the heck I just read. I wonder if Pastor Souzy's live. Maybe I can ask him and I can get an answer immediately. You know, like I don't have to, hey, can we set up a time next week? And Pastor Nfluence, you know, like, hey, I got a question. Yeah, you know, I've got 47 other DMs before I can get to yours. Like they can just jump in the live stream and be like, hey man, I was reading this Bible. I don't know what it means. Like, I know you're playing a video game, but can you at the same time like explain this to me what it means?
Yeah,
absolutely I can. I've literally had like I'm thinking about a specific individual, I won't share their name, but like who's had difficulties during her pregnancy and literally in the hospital waiting in fear that she may be having a miscarriage. Thank God it didn't actually happen. But you know, while you're waiting for the doctor to come back at the results, like you just, you know what I mean, just don't know. Pulls out her phone. Pastor Souzy, this is what I'm going through right now. Like, I'm like, yo guys, let's just pause and pray for her right now in the moment.
Yeah.
That is pastoring people.
Come on.
That is loving people.
It is.
That is serving people. It's just very unique.
Yep.
Because it's customized for me and my gifts and my leadership style. So now that you're kind of stepping into a similar role, do you struggle with that? I'm streaming, but I'm being a bad pastor. And when I'm being a pastor, I'm being a bad streamer. Like
for sure.
Do you struggle with that juggle?
For sure. Absolutely. I struggle with that juggle. One of the things along with that I struggle with too is just in that idea of comparison. It's like, am I doing enough? Because
Mm.
like like there's always more that you could do pastoring. There's always more
Yeah.
people that need help. There's
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
and man, I would like there have been times where I've sat, streaming and played some games and had some good laughs and got to just talk to people about life and then I get off and I'm like, but like this isn't normal. Like to not have 47 meetings and an organized event where I have to go to a location and set up beforehand.
Yep.
Like that was my life before. As the young adult pastor, we would have a service in a building and I would be the one that went and set it up, or we would do a Nerf war and we would set it all up, and now it just looks different. I'm sitting in my house
Yeah.
most of the time,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is weird that I'm at my house right now doing ministry. Like I'm not in a location, Um, and I've wrestled with that. But every time I've wrestled with it, and this is how the Lord works, man. Every time I've wrestled with it, um, the Lord has brought somebody either into my stream or into service. Um, and every time, like somebody in the chat is just like, man, I needed this today,
Yeah.
you know? And I'm like, you know what? That right there is worth it. That's enough.
Come
Like
on.
that's enough, man. Um, one of the things that has continued to help me in this season of that challenge is is my quality time with the Lord.
Come on.
Like because I can't look at the opinions of everybody else in my unique calling.
Yeah.
Like I know that my calling has come from the Lord, and so He is my number one
Come
source.
on.
Um, in that. Now I will say also with your unique calling, it there needs to be some oversight. Like
Absolutely.
you can't just, be like, you know what, I'm gonna do this because this is what I feel the Lord calling me to do, with nobody in your vicinity at all saying anything. Like I believe that the two big affirmations of a calling is one, that it's obviously ordained by the Lord. If you're doing anything without the Lord's help,
Come
it
on.
is not going to succeed.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not.
Absolutely.
And but also that there are people affirming what it is that you are called to do.
Yeah.
Like there has to be that sense of affirmation. Um, because like I said, this journey, especially with a unique calling, um, this journey can be lonely at times. And so to get that, like other people seeing it, and chat, I've had people who I didn't think would see the mission and the value of being an online pastor and streaming and sharing the gospel with gamers, who I had no idea would be like, dude, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I love it.
Like I've had people in their 80s be like, I know that there are people in the world who need this.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you were stepping into this role. And so I like first and foremost, seek the calling from the Lord. It has to come from the Lord. But then I would also say, like, there has to be some accountability there. There
Yeah.
has to be some true oversight from people you trust that lead you, because we're all led by somebody. We're all led by somebody. Like that passage in Ecclesiastes, nothing new under the sun.
Yeah. Yep.
Like at the end of the day, like it's unique, but at the same time, it's been done before, just in a different way.
Sure. Sure.
And so, like having that oversight a little bit, is just valuable and important.
Yeah. And
So
that leads me kind of the thought of, for example, obviously like discerning like what your calling is, and
absolutely,
having the right voices around you to help
go on.
affirm and confirm that in you. But it leads me to another conversation that I can imagine you've probably dealt with. I've dealt with a lot. You talk about finding the right voices.
Yep.
having spiritual oversight and leadership in your life to affirm that in
Yep.
you.
Yep.
But oftentimes there's a lot of other voices, that are comparing you to others, saying this will never work. You're calling because it's different, therefore it must be wrong. Talk to us, Pastor Influence. Have you dealt with any of that? People coming against your calling, and what have you done to make sure you're listening to the right voices versus the wrong ones?
No, that's good. Yeah, so I definitely have experienced the Pastor Influence. What are you doing? You've got a good right where you're at. Why are you stepping into this role when you have everything you could possibly need? I definitely have had those
Yeah.
conversations. And how I've dealt with them is first and foremost, I want everyone in here to know, everyone watching this, whether present live or on YouTube or on Spotify or wherever you're hearing this, I want you to know that those people are doing that out of sincere love for you. It's not like they're just hating on you. They're not picking on you. Like, they just care. Most of the time it's literally because they care. They want to make sure you're doing the right thing, which is fair. Um, but what I will say is, like I said before, it's got to come from the Lord.
That's right.
It's got to come from the Lord. One of my pastor friends that I love dearly, as a mentor to me, once said, you know, your spiritual life in the last season will not fulfill you in the season you are walking into.
Ooh, come on, elaborate on that.
It's this idea. I explained this earlier today, as if you were taking a really nasty old piece of wood and using it to build a house on.
Mm,
You know, if you tried to build a house on a 200 piece of wood that wasn't taken care of, and expecting that house to stand, when at one time that piece of wood could hold that house as firm as could be,
yeah.
um, it's gonna crush it. It's gonna fall apart.
Oh,
And if you're looking for your spiritual life in the last season, the sermon from somebody else
come
on YouTube, the ideas and vision from somebody else. Because I'll tell you, chat, like, even as somebody who was called into this role, into this unique calling of being an online pastor, man, I've both seen and been that person at times who has questioned the calling just seeing Pastor Souzy do it. I'm like, there have been times where people in the past, I know me and Pastor Souzy have talked about this before, who have felt called to step into the role that he's doing. And well, you're not really sure if that's their calling, if that's what
sure,
they're,
yeah,
because there's a weight to that calling.
yeah.
Like, to your unique calling, whatever it is, there is a weight. And if you are not ready, if you are not prepared to handle the weight of that calling, because you have not prepared yourself in your time with the Lord, in your development, in your leadership and learning skills, in your talents and gifts, it will crush you. You will experience burnout. I like to say this. Sometimes we experience burnout because we are on the wrong seat of the bus.
Mm,
And if you have not spent that time with the Lord and you walk into a season that you actually aren't supposed to be a part of, it'll crush you. And it's because you're on the wrong side of the bus.
absolutely, man.
Don't be that old piece of wood. Don't be that old piece of wood.
You talk about the weight of the unique calling, and I think what comes to mind for me, Pastor Influence, is like part of that weight that feels heavy because your unique is calling. Because your calling is unique, is the fact that part of that weight is being misunderstood.
Absolutely.
Being
Oh,
misunderstood.
absolutely.
We all crave being understood. We all crave that people would get what we do, why we do it, understand our motives, understand our thought process. But especially if you really want to live out God's custom calling for you, which means it's not always going to look like other people's.
No, for sure.
That means that people are going to misunderstand you because they're comparing you to someone else's.
Yeah.
They're not going to get your motives. They're not going to understand why you do the things you do. And their basis of whether what you do is right or wrong is if I've seen it before, is if it looks like other people. And that's why I love what you said about like in this season, like really clinging to your one-on-one time with the Lord is so important because he's the only one who gets you.
Yep.
The one who called you is the one who gets you. Like he's the one who understands the uniqueness, the customization. Why? Because he is the customizer. Like you can bring, like oftentimes you can bring your frustrations to God because you might be like sometimes I'll be honest, like sometimes I can be a little frustrated about how custom my calling is. Like, God, couldn't you just like give me something a little more normal? You know what I mean?
No, that's real.
Like,
that's
can you just
so real.
like you've called me to do all these different things that are so unique and so just out of the box. Like sometimes I just want to be in the box. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Put me back in the box,
it's
Lord.
Easier. Yeah, it's easier to be in the box. Absolutely, it is.
Like sometimes I'm like, Lord, just put me back in the box.
Yep.
Why do we always got to be out the box and different and unique? And sometimes I don't want to be a leader. Sometimes I just want to be a follower. Somebody's telling me what to do and I'm going to do it.
Yep.
And I can go to God and I can work through those frustrations. It is a privilege for God to have given you a custom calling. But the fact that it's custom, it's heavy.
Yep.
You want to, instead of just buying a house down the street, you want to build one and customize it. It's going to cost you more money.
Yep.
There is a price to the customization.
Yep.
There is a price to the uniqueness. You want to be cookie cutter? Sure. But you want to live out God's unique calling for you. It's going to come attached with a price.
Yep.
And you're going to have to lean on God to have the strength for it because it takes bravery.
Yep.
It takes bravery to be unique. It takes boldness to be different. I mean, I think about King David. Well, before he was king, he's if you guys know the story, it's before he's getting ready to kill Goliath, and he's in an armor room with who at the time is king. His name's Saul at the time, King Saul, and Saul needs someone to go kill Goliath. No, but everyone's too afraid to do it, and David's just crazy enough to be like, yeah, I'll take a stab at it. And so Saul, being king, wise, older, takes David into an armor room. And he's like, David, these are the things that people normally use to do battle. Here's some swords, some shields, breastplates. And then he takes David over to a very specific place in the room. And he says, David, not only is this armor, this is my armor. This is the armor I've used in battle. This is proven and tested. This stuff really works.
Yep.
We've gone on a battle. This sword, it worked last time, so it should work this time. Let's just copy the same method for the next mission. Like, it worked before, let's do it again. And if you read the story, I think it's 2 Samuel 17. Feel free to fact check me. It's in the book somewhere. But it's definitely 2 Samuel. I forget what chapter. But anyway, David has the bravery. He actually he puts on the armor. And it actually says he tried to walk around and it was too heavy.
Yep.
And he has the bravery to look at his elder, who's older, more experienced, wiser, and it's his king. And he has the bravery to say to him, I can't walk in these. I'm not used to it. In other words, he's saying, this armor works for you. This armor's not going to work for me. And he goes in a battle with something people would have thought was crazy. You got people walking with swords and shields and years of experience. And here comes David, probably around 15, 16 years old at the time, with a cloth sling and a few pebble stones. What are we even talking about here, dude? And I can imagine all of the people watching this battle about to go down. And they think David is nuts out of his mind. Oh yeah, they're placing bets. I got 100 on Goliath. You know what I mean? David's own people betting against him. You know what I mean?
Come on.
And I can imagine the whispers. I can imagine what people are saying. This guy's a goner. No way, dude. He should have grabbed the sword like everybody else does. And he grabs that sling. And the Bible says he grabbed 5 smooth stones. And he actually ends up one-shotting Goliath. Didn't even use the other 4, just one shot. And the beautiful part is, if David had taken the sword in a battle, he would have died. but because he wasn't afraid to be custom made. Come on.
Yes.
Because he
Come on.
wasn't afraid to be different. He wasn't afraid. He understood. I got a custom calling, which is why growing up, God, you didn't have me battling other people in war. You had me in my father's, taking care of my sheep, and I was protecting them from the bears and the lions.
Yep.
I grew up my whole life practicing with a sling.
Yep.
And many of us in our lives, like God's been preparing you your whole life with something that's different, unique, and maybe a little bit weird. And you keep trying to throw away your sling and pick up someone else's sword. But if you pick up someone else's sword, you're gonna die in battle. But if you pick up your sling and fight the giants that God's called you to fight in your own custom story that He has written for you, instead of dying in battle, not only you achieve victory, but you'll achieve a victory so big people will be telling the story for generations to come. That is the boldness that David had.
Yep.
Saul, I hear your voice telling me that this is wrong, but I know the voice of God, and that even my own experience has affirmed in me. I need to take the sling, but there's a weight of being misunderstood. David, I mean, after he did it, then everyone's like, oh, you know what I mean? Yeah. But like here's the deal, right? There's a saying that I really love. It's only crazy until it happens. While David's walking up with this cloth, everyone's like, this dude's insane. And then 30 seconds later, he goes from a psycho to a genius.
Yep.
Because he was willing to follow his custom calling. And man, that's just, I want people to understand, like, there is going to be a weight. You'll be misunderstood. You'll be mislabeled. You'll be misjudged. Till this day, man, even people about me, like, they assume my motives. Like, they assume all this different stuff. Like, and the reality is, like, you just have to learn to become misunderstood. Like, you have to you have to be at peace. That's why your time with the Lord is so okay, God, the rest of the world may misunderstand me, but God, I know that you are for me. I have a few mentors in my life who affirm what I'm doing. Like people like the right voices. And I got to make sure I'm keeping my ear with them more than I'm keeping my ear to the TikTok comments. Like you're going to be misunderstood, and influence. Like you're going to be misunderstood.
Oh, absolutely.
For those who are here listening right now, like you're going to be misunderstood. And if you don't spend that time with the Lord, influence, this is something you said earlier to me today. Like your calling, if you don't, like your calling's going to crush you.
Yeah, your calling, it'll crush you. And here's the beautiful thing too. Like, I love that story of David, because David tried on the armor, and then the discernment said no. And that's okay. Like, he tried on the armor, and the discernment, like, he just felt it in his spirit. Like, the discernment said, this isn't what I'm supposed to do. And so that's what I would challenge you with too. Because everybody has a unique calling. Like, David was good with a sling. David had talents and gifts that made sense for him to walk around with a sling because he was out in the field. Fighting lions and bears, man. You know, one of my talents and gifts is just loving and connecting with people. That's why I'm called to be a community pastor, is because it's one of my favorite things in the entire world. Not everybody's gifted with public speaking. You know, like you have a gift, and God gives you those gifts, and the Spirit uses those gifts to help you discern your unique calling. That's all a part of the build. Matt, I like what you said. And to take it a step further, God knows every hair on your head. Knows you from the top of your head to the soles of your feet. He knows everything about you, future, present, and past. So trust in Him, the same Creator that put the stars in the sky to lead and guide your life in His timing. Because the truth about our unique callings too is sometimes we want to rush. We want to rush it. We want to rush it. We want to be the David already celebrating Goliath's head, and we're still out in the field waiting to walk the process out. Because the process carries weight and it's hard. But that's all a part of a unique calling. If you today are listening to this and you feel like it is heavy and you can't take it anymore, lean on the pillar.
Come on.
The rock. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't lean on yourself, lean on the rock. That's why scripture calls the Lord the rock that the house was built on.
Mm.
And like that's what's walked me through this process continuously. Having people in my life who I trust
Yeah.
as my mentor to say, nah, that's not the move. That's you need to take a left instead of a right.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, I trust in your discipleship, but because I know that that's those same people that I trust, if I said, no, I really think I'm supposed to go right, they'll go, okay. I trust that the spirit of the living God is leading and guiding you, and I will walk alongside you if going right doesn't work.
Yeah.
I am here to walk that journey out with you, that if we need to go left after you went right, we'll go left together.
Sure.
Um, yeah, I think that's valuable in your unique calling, and just trusting in the Lord and His direction, um, even when it sounds crazy, because it's crazy until it happens,
Come on
man.
now. Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy until it happens,
Absolutely.
you know?
As we begin to wind down the conversation, I think one of the things I would love to hear from you as an encouragement to other people, because you're just right in the middle of it.
Right in the middle of it.
What
Yep.
would you say to those who, they're ready to embrace, what the fact that my calling just doesn't have to look like everyone else. I understand, God, that my calling is custom made by a custom creator.
Yep.
However, I really feel like I got to have all the answers and I got to have it all figured out before I could even start. What would you say to people that are hesitating they know God's calling them into something, but they're hesitating to start because they feel like they don't have all the answers to their custom calling just yet? What would you say to them?
Jump. Don't.
Ooh, I think we may have some technical difficulties, friend. He jumped. He literally jumped. He just left. He's gone.
I'm still
We're
here.
back. No, we're back. You hear me? You ready?
Yeah.
Dude, we were saying you jumped.
I didn't get disconnected, so I could hear you the whole time. That's wild. All right.
It might
but
have
anyway.
might have been on my end then.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just start from the beginning of your statement.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I would say jump, because here's the truth. It's like the parable that Jesus shares with the coins. The little that's given to you. Are you gonna put that the gifts that God has given you, the calling that He has placed on your life, are you just gonna put it in the ground?
Mm,
Are you gonna just put it in the ground, or are you gonna start this journey that could develop you into the person you want to become?
yeah.
Into the life that the Lord has. Man, we talked about it today in staff a little bit, but this idea that what are you called to? That this life with Jesus, this journey with Jesus, is more than just this idea that we get to go to heaven and that's it. But man, how is your unique calling bringing heaven down to earth right now?
Come on.
Even if you don't have it all figured out, man, that's the beautiful thing, man. Half the time when I'm preaching my sermon, man, and I say something super wise, super smart, half the time I'm in my head going, wow, that was good. That was because it isn't me, and the Lord continues to develop me. Man, guys, I'm not always the best reader or the strongest communicator. Man, I don't have the technical skills of being the greatest, content creator on the universe. I just know what the Lord has called me to, and I know that I'm going to continue to learn, man, and grow. It's just like David. If you watch the story of David from beginning to end, man, he continues to grow and develop. Man, as you watch Peter walk with Jesus continuously, you see him develop from this person who believed Jesus to be this strong, who's going to free them from Roman power. Like, it's going to go back to he goes from seeing Jesus as this great leader who's going to free them from something specific, to Peter seeing the fact that Jesus freed them from a life and eternity away from Jesus, that Peter was freed to see heaven on earth. And we are called in our unique calling to do the exact same thing.
Come on.
And so take the leap. Like seriously, ask the questions, count the cost. Count the cost. Begin to really ask yourself, okay, what does this life, what is this unique calling actually look like in the day to day? What are the practical steps? Like one of the things I want you guys to hear, and a thing I'm even trying to get better at being on the podcast, is how do I give you practical steps? What does it look like to practically walk in whatever leadership topic we're talking about? And today, I would say the practical step is to count the cost. Know what you're walking into and jump. Jump full force. You don't have to know it all, but
Yeah.
take it a day at a time. You don't have to know it all. But know what gifts God has given you. Know that God is for you and not against you. And don't be like Moses, man. If the Lord's saying wait, wait.
Yeah.
Be like Moses. Moses said, Lord, if you're not going, I'm not going either. I'm not going either. So like just continue to have that discernment. And man, I'm telling you, being in God's word, man, being in that secret place with the Lord, that time in the morning, during the day or a night, whatever that looks like for you, and just going, Lord, I need you to meet me here. Man, if you are not doing that, you don't even really know what your new unique calling is. I'm just going to call it like I see it. If you really like your unique calling becomes more about you than it does about the call that God has placed on your life. And that's the last thing you want.
Absolutely.
Jump.
You have to be willing to step out of faith, and you don't have all the answers. Of course, we could talk through, like, take the time, like we talked about throughout this episode, like seek the wise counsel who can affirm it in you.
Yep.
But once you've done all that, you're still not going to have all the answers.
Nope.
You're not going to have all the I's dotted, the T's crossed. And oftentimes what we might not realize that we're doing is when we're not willing to step into our calling because we don't have all the details, is we're trying to obey God in doing our calling to a point where you're trying to obey God by obeying his calling in a way that makes you step in to God's calling without actually needing God to come with you.
Yep.
Because what I mean by that is, like, we're trying to step into this thing with every like answer figured out, so that when I get there, like, God, I don't even need you to come with me, because like I got this thing down pat. Like, I got to figure it out. I got all the answers. Like, I've got it. I got a contingency plan. If this happens, I'm going to go that. Rather than saying it is good to prepare as much as you can, but you can't prepare for everything. You can't know everything. You will learn on the journey. You will fail on the journey, and the faster you fail, the more you will learn from those failures. But when you step in without knowing, not feeling fully ready, what you're saying is like, God, I'm willing to jump because I know that you'll catch me. I know that you'll guide me. I know that you'll direct me. I heard a pastor say one time, and it really, really connected with me, where basically he was giving an analogy of him and his wife one day were getting ready to go. I think they were going to reservations, and there was a 15-minute window that if you don't show up within 15 minutes, we give away your table. And him and his wife were getting ready, and not to sound like a stereotypical kind of story, but his wife was running late. Sometimes I'm running late too. It could happen to either one. But in this story, his wife was running late, and he was saying to his wife, if we don't leave now, we're gonna miss our reservation. We're gonna miss the window. But she wasn't ready. She still needed to put on her lipstick, maybe do a little eyeliner, whatever it was. And he just said to her, "Babe, you're just gonna have to get ready on the way. We're gonna get in the car. I try to avoid the bumps. You're just gonna have to put the lipstick on the way. You're just gonna have to put the eyeliner on the way. Because if we wait until you're ready, the window will be closed. If we wait until you're ready, there won't be a table to sit at when we get there. We'll have missed the opportunity." And many times in our lives, God's given us a calling. And everything is different, but some of our opportunities, some of them are time sensitive. They're time sensitive.
Come on.
And we spend so much time getting ready that by the time we get there, someone else is already sitting at the table.
Yeah.
Because I needed to make sure I had every I dotted. I had every T crossed. I had all the answers. But I've just come to tell some of you, like, some of y'all, you're just going to have to get ready on the way.
True.
You're just going to have to figure some stuff out on the way. The Holy Spirit's with you. He's going to be guiding you, directing you. Like we've been leading this church. This March will be 10 years for the glory of God. We're getting ready on the way.
Come on.
Pioneering the world's first online church for gamers. We're still getting ready on the way.
Dude.
We're not perfect. Don't have all the answers. Making mistakes. Apologizing for them.
Come on.
But what's the alternative? 10 years later? Well, we didn't have all the answers, so we just never started.
Yeah. And that in my unique calling, Pastor Souzy, is my biggest fear. Like that's what keeps me going. Is I never want to walk into the room and seeing somebody else sit at the seat the Lord had for me.
Come on.
Like that thought terrifies me because it's an adventure.
Come on.
Like what beautiful things. Man, yes, the unique calling. It's hard, it's heavy, but man, the beauty that I've witnessed because of the obedience, the lives transformed and changed because I was obedient to say yes when the Lord asked me to.
Come on.
That when I looked at the cliff and was terrified, I jumped anyways. And guess what? The beautiful thing about that too is just as much as you don't have to have all the answers, you don't know when all those moments are going to come.
Absolutely.
Man, just on the other side of the door, lives could be transformed and changed because of your obedience.
Come on.
Because of your yes. And man, that just gets me excited. It makes me really think about the uniqueness of my calling. When I sit here at this computer and after a really long day, I'm like, man, I mean, isn't life the adventure? Like I don't want, this is just me, but I don't want a 9 to 5. For those that love their 9 to 5 job, that's great. Like, but it's because it's exciting. It's an adventure. It's unique to me. And each of us, whether you work a 9 to 5 job, whether you stream, make content, whether you own your own business, however you're looking at leadership when you listen to this, man, it's an adventure. Don't lose that. That's the exciting about the thing about the life that God has called you to, is it is an adventure and it's unique to you. Man, so don't stop because you don't have all your I almost said T's dotted and I's
Did I do that too? Yeah, I do that.
But don't stop because you don't know. Because all you'll do is you'll look back and go, what if? Don't let there be a what if in your life. Because I have had what ifs. And we all have. We've all had moments where we said no instead of yes.
Yeah.
And we should have said yes. You know, and we often forget about that when we're seeing the risk. But man, I promise you the reward outweighs the risk. It may not make sense to everybody. It may not even make sense to you.
Come on.
But trust in the journey. Because I promise you, man, when Peter and John and all them, when they now, you know, like in heaven, they're like, this is the coolest thing we ever could have done. But in the moment, that's the craziest thing they ever did. Until it happened.
That's right.
Craziest thing until it happened. And so I just want to encourage you, don't wait. Don't wait. Jump on it tomorrow.
Yep.
Jump on it right now. Watch heaven come to earth right now.
Take the time to pray, seek God, get counsel.
Absolutely.
And once you know that, like let that be the thing that's keeping you from waiting. But once you've done that, don't let the fact that you don't have the answers keep you from waiting.
Come on.
Once you've checked those boxes, prayed, have sought God, I've taught with wise counsel, and I've got that green light there. Don't wait till you have all the answers. Take that jump. I'll leave you this last story before we wind down. This was probably about 3 years into our church. Pastor Nfluence, I don't even know if you know this story, but I'll never forget it. There's an individual in our church. His name was Orange Mango. Met him online. I think he found my stream and got plugged into church. And ended up living a couple hours away, so we got to actually meet up in person, and was part of our community. Found Christ, was plugged in our community for a short time. The reason he was part of our community for a short time is he ended up passing away. Ended up passing away. And I remember in that same time that I knew him, in the same time that we were evangelizing to him, discipling him, at the same time, in the back of my mind every day, man, did I start this church too young? Man, should I have worked at a quote unquote normal ministry under someone else's leadership a few more years to learn, to gain more wisdom, to gain more experience? And there's great validity in that, but that's just not what I felt God customizing my calling. In the back of my mind, did I do this wrong, or am I on the wrong track? And my life looks different than others, and God, my calling's so unique than others, and am I doing this wrong? And all these insecurities and fears and comparison being the killer of all joy. And then Orange Mango passes away, all while I feel like I shouldn't have started because I didn't have all the answers. Let me tell you, if I hadn't started, Orange Mango might not have met Jesus.
Come on.
Orange Mango might have stepped into eternity without knowing Christ. And the reality is, done is better than perfect. Tell you, friends, we're waiting for things to be perfect. God's just waiting for you to say yes.
Come on.
We're waiting to have all the answers. God's just waiting for you to say yes. Let me tell you about like what we try to do here in our team. Like, hey, we try to hit deadlines. We try to do things organized. We try to be excellent and best of our ability. Let me tell you, done is better than perfect. Like,
Come on.
It wasn't 100% perfect, but it got done. We did the thing. We hit the goal. We had some learnings. We made some mistakes. We're gonna get it better next time. Done is better than perfect. And some of y'all will never get anything done because you're waiting for it to be perfect. The kingdom of God is just ready to be advanced. It's like God is waiting for us to build his kingdom with his help. The kingdom of God is perfect, but the builders are imperfect. We're going to have questions. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to fail. He's going to pick us up, brush us off. Don't let it be a barrier that's keeping you from starting and stepping into whatever the unique calling might be for your life. Done's better than perfect.
Come on.
Obedience is almost its richest when it comes with a lack of understanding. Because a lack of understanding requires you to rely on God's help, requires you to have faith that you may not have. That's what the Bible says. God orders your steps. Some of y'all want to see the whole staircase. God's like, nah, I'm giving you one step. I'll let you see the one step in front of you, then the step in front of that. Some of y'all are trying to plan the next 30 years of your life. Bro, God's like, I'll give you a step. You're thinking about decades ahead. I want to give you a good step. It's not bad to prepare. It's not bad to think ahead. It's not bad to plan. But y'all are waiting to step out of the boat until the storm stops. But the whole point is God wants you to step out into the storm.
Come on.
That's the whole point.
Come on.
It's the whole point. That's like literally the whole point. And so our biggest challenge, don't be afraid to have a custom calling. Because whether you like it or not, you do. You already do. It might not look like our stories. Even our stories are different. Our callings and our gifts and they're not, they have some similarities. But our hope is that you were able to take away from this conversation, you have a custom calling. Stop comparing yourself to other people. And don't let the fact that you're misunderstood and the fact that you don't look like everyone else, don't let that keep you from stepping out and being who God has created you to be. Because I wonder what opportunities you're missing because you're waiting. Like, there's wisdom in waiting to a certain point. But some of y'all, you're just waiting too long. And I wonder for you, what orange mangoes are passing by while you're trying to get all the answers. Trust God. Seek wise counsel. But accept the fact that you're different. And not only is that okay, that's what makes it beautiful. Because God is too creative for all of your callings to be copy and paste. It just is. Well, friends, we appreciate y'all checking out this episode of the Level Up Podcast. Hey, if these have been a blessing to you, you got to think of at least 47 and a half people that you know that could benefit from this podcast. Come on, somebody. Share it with a friend. Send it to your mother. Whoever needs it, send them. Whether you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. Let us know in the comments one of your favorite moments. How do you feel God has custom designed your calling? Share it on Apple, share it on Spotify, all the different places. You guys are absolutely incredible. And keep tuning back in. Weekly episodes. Remember, the whole purpose, helping gamers level up in their life, faith, and leadership. We believe God has so much in store for you, but it's important for all of us to grow, level up, so we can go on to the difference and change the gaming community for the glory of God. But that only happens when you step in to your custom calling. Love you. Catch you in the next one.